Alright, before going over the build, I'm just going to take a quick overview of all of Viscous' abilities. So Splatter, not too much to say about this. They can get hit multiple times once you get the bounce upgrade. But with this build, I'm not building much spirit power, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. The cube, this, in laning phase, sometimes you have to get level 2, sometimes you get it way later on. But when you're playing against certain characters, like 7 or Bebop, where you need to cleanse something, it's really important. So I would suggest leveling it up early on and keeping in mind that it cleanses to save teammates. You can also cube teammates that are doing channels, like 7 ult or Bebop ult, to protect them from getting CC'd, and they can still continue doing their ult. Next is Puddle Punch. So this is what the build is kind of focused around, and it has some interesting synergies in that it applies your light attack. And in this game currently, I don't know if they're going to change this eventually, your light attack applies certain procs that normally only proc on bullets, like Silencer for example. If I melee him, he'll get silenced, and that means if I use the Puddle Punch, it'll apply the light attack and also silence him. This doesn't work with everything. For example, a popular thing to buy is Mystic Shot. This does not work with your melee attacks, but it works if you right click. So I'm not... The right click is pretty new. It was actually changed after I recorded most of this guide, so I'm not going to go into that too much right now. The main thing I use with Puddle Punch early on is Spirit Strike and Melee Lifesteal. Both of these increase your melee damage, and Spirit Strike on its own basically doubles your melee damage early on. You do around base 70 without Melee Lifesteal, and this gives you an extra 50 when it's not on cooldown. This also lets you apply spirit damage with your fists, which normally only do physical damage. This lets you apply stuff like Mystic Vulnerability, Bullet Resistance, Mystic Slow, anything else that basically uses Suppressor also that uses Spirit. Puddle Punch in general is definitely one of the highest skill cap moves in the game. You can use it to help enemies get away, or help enemies get caught. Early on, it's really useful for getting people close to you to hit them with melee hits. And most of the time, I find myself using it to try and get away or get on top of an enemy. Hits them, by the way. Yeah, the melee hitbox is pretty weird. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the synergy. The way the move works is that if you're near the edge, it'll push you that direction. If you're in the middle, it'll just hit you up. But I think you're definitely one of the fastest characters when it comes to ganking people because of this ability. So keep that in mind, and don't be afraid to run around the map.
The spirit urn is waiting to be claimed.
If you find yourself trying to knock key targets and helping teammates more with this ability than using it on yourself, I suggest getting Reach, because it does change how far away you can cast the ability. It also makes it slightly larger, which changes some stuff up. Let me just show it right here. Yeah, so if I sell it, no, I can't cast over there. And it's a pretty substantial difference, but I personally don't buy it in most of my games because I use it on characters near me, and there's no need for it. So yeah. With your ult, if you level it up to 5, which normally you want to have 2 points in it, 3 points in your E if this build, and 2 points in your cube. Yeah, these are all pretty mandatory for the cooldown reduction. And from here, you can kind of choose. You can go for... You're not really going AP with this build. There's other builds where you can... But the bounces are still pretty useful. You can go... The health regen, you don't have much healing in the first place with this build. You're not... And you don't have any cooldown reduction. So you don't have that many cubes. So I really wouldn't suggest it. So most of the time, you end up going Goo Ball. And with this ult... If you combine it with things like Phantom Strike. And previously you could use Magic Carpet to go crazy with it. You still kind of can. You can kind of fly around like this, and it seems really OP, but once you hit someone, it stops. So it's more of a getaway tool, and I think this ult is already a great getaway tool, so I wouldn't suggest it. But I would suggest going for Phantom Strike. This gives you more bullet resistance and weapon stats, and it teleports you right in front of someone. It doesn't work perfectly around corners, so beware of that. But more interesting than that, though, is during ult, is you can use your fists. Now, I haven't really mastered this, but if you kind of get good at hitting people into yourself, you are faster than them, and you can kind of set up more bounces with this, where you do something like that. You can also put yourself in the cube to purge stuns. You are not in CC immune while you're in this, so sometimes 7 will put a stun on you. You need to jump up, put yourself in a cube, and you can cancel by pressing space, and continue rolling away. You also continue moving while you're in the cube slightly, but with the ball, you'll continue rolling forward until you hit something. You don't bounce, but it's pretty useful for getting away, keeping your momentum sometimes. Now, a last thing I'm going to mention in this build, which is kind of like a bug, I don't know how long it's going to be in the game, is this only works with certain items, so you can test it out for yourself. Main one I think you'd use it realistically with is not Colossus. You could get later on, increases your melee damage too. But if you get Fleet Footwork and you're having trouble pairing your attacks on reaction, you can activate items and it will reset your charge essentially. So you can do that to delay your melee, or if someone's very far away, you can kind of do a weird angle. And you can chain this multiple times if you have multiple active items to do something like that. You can look up the build for yourself. A couple things to note is that Sprint Boots gives you health regen, so that's pretty useful in lane. You don't have to go for a Restorative Shot or Healing Right. You have and you don't have to go for extra regen. Even just having one extra regen here is pretty useful. Spirit Strike also gives you health regen, so getting these two in lane, it's pretty decent for just, you know, chilling for a little bit and getting your health back. Keep in mind that you don't have to get bullet armor and spirit armor if you get bullet resistance from Life Strike, and you get bullet resistance from Point Blank, and you get spirit resistance from Escalating Exposure. You can get these resistances from other places. Berserker also for bullet resistance. But if you don't have these items, make sure you get bullet armor, or if it's not enough, you can get it. But these kind of take up a lot of space. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.